r/AskReddit. What's the harsh reality no one accepts? Pikachu is a slave. Which is crazy to me. If united, the Pokemon could easily kill every single human on Earth. Very late, but sometimes you are the problem in a relationship. And if people keep on leaving you, it may well be your fault. Even if you don't feel like it is. Yes, a lot of yes. People fantasize about finding the one, but a relationship is 50% finding the right person, and 50% being the right person. You're the bad guy in someone's story, so many of your enemies will never admit to doing anything wrong, but the thing is neither will you in some situations. People justify their own behavior to themselves. That's why so many people can't apologize and double down on the shatty things they do. Alternatively, some people do things that aren't shatty, but are perceived as shatty by another party. Sometimes values don't line up, and both parties can be correct in their own way. Some parents just don't love their children. I was reading an article about 10 things therapists don't tell you. And one of them was that many parents admit they don't love their children. This one scares me. Edit. Found the article. Not the most scientific. As to why it scares me, when my son was born he was more a stranger in my house, and it was not a love at first sight. I was happy to some extent, but never felt like you see in movies. I talked with therapist and be reading about it here and there. Not uncommon for dads to have to work on bonding with newborns. Son is now 10 months and much improved on bonding. But you always kind of judge how you initially reacted and if that's who you really are, etc. Pandemics last years, not weeks or months. To add on to this, flattening the curve wasn't about reducing the total number of infection cases. It was to slow down the rate and distribute it out over a longer period of time. The current precautions we are taking are to allow hospitals to not be overwhelmed with many cases at once, not to completely prevent us from catching the virus. Hard work doesn't always pay off. Something I learned my first week in the corporate world, and again, and again. Even up until all the coronavirus layoffs, a non-executive's value to the company is strictly dictated by which side of the balance sheet their compensation falls. Some people just can't be saved. You could give them every benefit in the world, and they still could choose to throw it all away, and you can't do anything about it. This is a tough lesson to learn. People have to want to change. Nothing you can do can make people change if they are resistant to it. This hurts, and I'm not sure how I feel about it. I work with children who have suffered immense trauma and abuse. Far worse than you can imagine. I work with them when they are teens, and they've started to utilize coping mechanisms that society would deem to be poor, despite the fact those coping mechanisms have kept them alive. They may steal, lie, run away, take drugs, etc. They do it because no one has made them feel like they're worth believing in. Statistically, these children, when they become adults, are likely to not have jobs, have healthy relationships, or even have a home. It isn't a choice, they simply don't believe in themselves enough to think they are worth the effort. It isn't benefits they need, it's love. Pain is inescapable. Not even acknowledging that pain is inevitable and preparing for it ahead of time can lessen it. You will be taken by surprise, you will be hurt, you will not enjoy it, you will not be able to numb it, and there is nothing you can do except take it on the chin. Edit. I guess I should add, it's true you can prepare yourself to experience certain kinds of pain and lessen its impact, but when I said this, I meant that eventually something was going to come up that you never prepared for and cause pain anyway. Just didn't do a good job of making that clear. Sorry. Oh, and yes, pain can also bring about growth. I don't disagree with that at all. I'm reminded of an iconic quote from Robert Heinlein's Stranger in a Strange Land, and I paraphrase. I have discovered why humans laugh. Not because there is a levity, but because there is a wrongness. Humans laugh because something is wrong. Beauty matters in how people treat people. As an average looking guy with amazingly photogenic kids, I get told a lot that I must have a beautiful wife. My daughter used to get free stuff all the time from shopkeepers, etc. Wow, she is so cute. Can I give her a sweet, etc. Really opened my eyes. Absolute strangers would offer her small gifts all the time. As a former ugly kid, it's really ducked up how people extend their shallowness to treating ugly kids badly. Going from a skinny guy my whole life to becoming a chubby guy in about a year has really shocked me how people treat me differently. How do they treat you as chubby compared to skinny? I went the other way, and holy cow, do people just react more positively to you. It happens often and noticeable. I'm a girl. As a teenager I was always bullied and ostracized for being ugly. After college I get snotty remarks about must be nice to be a beautiful woman and have everything handed to you. Can't ducking win. People see overweight people as greedy and lazy. When I was bigger, people assumed I did no work and was somehow cheating my way through my job. What if I really am greedy and lazy, but I happen to coincidentally be overweight? That's not fair. I want to be disliked for my flawed personality, not my body. People can be so shallow. It's like, hate me for who I am, not my appearance. Mistakes do define you. The little ones don't, but if you make a big mistake, it will alter your life to an extent. Saying that they don't matter is a lie that will prevent you from diagnosing life problems later down the line. This is something I wrestle with a lot in terms of my recovery from alcoholism. I quit young, at 24, and have been sober 7 years without relapse. Despite that accomplishment, I have alcoholic neuropathy, nerve damage, that will never go away, no matter how long I'm sober. This is a wonderful accomplishment though. Quitting is so hard, even if you have every reason to. You chose life. Bad things will happen to you for no reason. I always liked the Star Trek quote, "It is possible to commit no mistakes and still lose." That is not a weakness. That is life. For that reason, some things just happen and that's the way it is. Money and good looks matter, and if you don't have enough good looks, just add money. And if you have neither, get drunk until you don't care anymore. Nobody is truly selfless, and that's okay. There's a guy named Robin Hanson, who's an interesting thinker, and he's co-authored a book called The Elephant in the Brain, about the hidden motives in our daily lives. The book says exactly what you say, but Hanson doesn't seem to find that depressing or disheartening. As far as I remember, he put it like this: humans don't look that bad when compared to other animals. The only way we look bad is when we compare ourselves to the angels we pretend to be. Reminds me of a quote. Limited in nature, infinite in his desires, man is a fallen god who remembers the heavens. Alphonse de Lamartine. There are no single women in your area willing to meet you. Those bastards lead to me, not to me. You're in the wrong area, buddy. There are, checks webpage, 3,120 hot and single women in my area right now. Some people just don't get a happy ending. Some people never find happiness or satisfaction. People tell you that there is light at the end of the tunnel, but for some people there isn't. They never get to see any light, just darkness. Yeah, I once lived with someone like that. She was in her 70s/80s, and I rented a room in her house for a few months. She was truly miserable. She told me about how she grew up in Turkey with an absent father and abusive alcoholic mother. She told me how she escaped her overbearing family by marrying an Indian diplomat. Then how her husband abused her for years. She was missing teeth because of it. Then when her family moved to Canada, how she worked 4 years for her husband and kids with no thanks. By the time I moved in with her she was all alone, living in low-income housing, yelling at her kids on the phone once a week about how they are terrible children who never visit, and ranting to me about how terrible her life had been, and how many regrets she had. She was an awful person to be around, but it was clear she had lived a life full of suffering. First impressions are a very ducking big deal. They can be. My partner is on the road a lot for his job. This particular week he was away with one of the big bosses of the company. Everyone in the office knew the big boss was traveling with my partner in the car. My partner got a call from a customer and had to ring the office to finalize the sale all via the cockpit. Office guy picks up the phone. "Yeah, what do you want?" in a super uninterested and gruff voice. Needless to say, he left a lasting impression. Seems like it's not that important, but in a workplace that kind of thing stands out. All human beings are capable of being viciously immoral. There's a point where we can be forced or force ourselves to become completely animalistic. We can perpetrate murder and genocide as just one example, and if justified to ourselves correctly, we will feel no remorse. We like to think that the only people capable of such horror are a minority, but the truth is that we are all capable of it given the right circumstances. There is a Star Trek film that deals with this. Nemesis. Basically a clone of one of the virtuous characters shows up hellbent on destroying humanity. The captain pleads with him at one point saying that the man he is couldn't possibly do the things he is. He is better than that. His blood is better than that. The villain responds, he is what his life has made him. People can just simply fall out of love with you for no reason. You fretting about whether it's you or something else, or the investment is basically you giving them the reasons to strengthen the reason why they stopped loving you, when they could very much not have a reason at all. Feelings and priorities can change. More people need to understand the difference between lust and love. Lots of young people think they love their SO, but it's really just lust. It takes hard emotions sometimes to figure out who you truly love. Like how some people don't become religious until someone they truly cared about dies. A friend of mine did something really dumb once and ended up in the hospital for 2 days. When he finally woke up, to his surprise his girlfriend was there and was the only one there. Turns out she knew something was up when he wasn't answering the phone. She found him at his apartment and called 911 and took off work for the next 2 days to stay with him in the hospital until he woke up. As you can imagine, the emotions of hearing that in person hit him hard, and that's when he found out how much he loved her. It's like how people become best friends after surviving something very difficult together. Yet most people today never get close to death, and people are simply friends because they were neighbors, perhaps. The world goes on after you die. The world went on before you were born. Nope. My dog, Artemis, created the entire universe and everything in it last Thursday, including all memories of the past. Prove me wrong.